Hey, this is Pablo back with Meditation Amsterdam, and today we're going to do a little quoting from a book and some analysis on the writings of Gurdjefff. Gurdjefff was kind of a bit of an obscure spiritual leader from the early 1900s, and there is a guy of last name Ouspensky who was a follower of Gurdjefff and wrote a book, which is a bit of an account of the teachings of Gurdjefff. The book is called In Search of the Miraculous. And apart from some rather weird and obscure charts about like solar, patterns and, musical notes and strange, some strange numerology type things, it contains extremely good information about the condition of our minds and the condition of a man that has not yet started to cultivate his mind. So before I go on with the video, do make sure to subscribe and press the like button because it helps the channel. And without further ado, I'm going to share a couple of quotes which I think are quite crucial. So in this first video, I want to talk about one of the main topics of this book, in which Gurdjieff introduces what is one of the crucial problems that we're facing. And he describes that as man being a plurality as opposed to a unity, and how that gets us into trouble. So the first quote behind this says, "Man has no permanent and unchangeable I. Every thought, every mood, every desire, every sensation says I. And in each case, it seems to be taken for granted that this I belongs to the whole man, and that a thought, a desire, or an aversion is expressed by this whole. In actual fact, there is no foundation whatever for this assumption. Man's every thought and desire appears and lives quite separately and independently of the whole. And the whole never expresses itself for the simple reason that it exists as such only physically as a thing and in the abstract as a concept. Man has no individual I, but there are instead hundreds and thousands of separate small I's, very often entirely unknown to one another, never coming into contact, or on the contrary hostile to each other, mutually exclusive and incompatible. Each minute, each moment, man is saying or thinking I, and each time this I is different. Just now it was a thought, now it is a desire, now a sensation, now another thought, and so endlessly. Man is a plurality. Man's name is Legion." So that's one quote on the topic, which I think is super strong, actually, right? Like quite dramatic, in fact, if you ask me. So he bangs on the topic, and he says each small I is able to call itself by the name of the whole, and to act in the name of the whole, to agree or disagree, to give promises, to make decisions with which another I or the whole will have to deal. This explains why people so often make decisions and so seldom carry them out. A man decides to get up early in the morning from the following day. One I, or a group of I's, decides this. But getting up is the business of another I, who entirely disagrees with the decision and may even know absolutely nothing about it. Of course, the man will again go on sleeping in the morning, and in the evening he will again decide to get up early, and in some cases may assume very unpleasant consequences for a man. A small accidental I may promise something, not to itself but to someone else at a certain moment, simply out of vanity or for amusement. Then it disappears. But the man, that is the whole combination of other I's who are quite innocent of this, may have to pay for all his life. This is the tragedy of the human being, that any small I has the right to sign checks and promissory notes and the man, that is the whole, has to meet them. People whose lives often consist of paying off the promissory notes of small accidental I's. And so that is the main gist. I thought I had yet another quote about the topic somewhere around here in the beginning of the book, but I might be wrong, and I'm probably not going to find it now. But I think that is the main gist of that message. So you have the individual, right? So you have the person over here, right? You know, we draw him a little bit sort of confused because it is inhabited by many different eyes, or many different movements of the mind. Some of them are desires, some of them are fears, some of them are memories, some of them are impulses, some of them are thoughts. Yeah. And they are a plurality, and they take this person over. Right? So when they appear in the mind, they take you over, they impersonate you, and then decisions and actions are taken on behalf of this single I, that impulse that pops up. Because these are not integrated, they move very quickly, they take us over, hypnotize us very quickly, and they're very convincing. Usually they also carry a certain emotional charge to them that makes them compelling. We are compelled to act on their behalf, but they are discrepant from one another. So, here may be a certain desire to be healthy, right? Health. And over here you may have gluttony as an impulse. And so these two are unknown and antagonistic to one another. And depending on which one is inhabiting or taking you over at that point, your action will be according to that. But there's a big discrepancy there. It manifests itself in many ways, but the primary concern that we have is that we are, if we stand any chance of having a harmonious, life and being effective in the world, we need to create a single center over here, which can observe and integrate and therefore regulate all of these things by having observed them very thoroughly and acknowledged their existence, right? So that's a very different picture, because now this is a unity now. Yeah, so as opposed to those different eyes floating around, the work of mental cultivation, meditation, etc., is geared towards creating a core that creates a kind of unified intelligence that can regulate itself and can do so very effectively without the need for a top-down sort of structure. So that's the main message and the main gist of this video. So anyone who starts to do this work will notice this immediately. This is one of the reasons that meditation is so difficult in the beginning, because these things are happening all the time, but they are happening below our conscious perception. We are so completely driven by them that we just take it for granted that that we think that we have a single eye, and this thing is in operation behind the scenes. When we sit and meditate and become quiet, all these things start to pop up and drive us completely crazy, and that's when we first come to terms with the level of dysfunction that is taking place in our minds, which is very confronting. It's very difficult to observe. very painful actually to observe. Complete neurosis, full blast case of neurosis and multiple personalities going on, unhinged. So, and that makes the task of meditation at first very, very challenging, very demanding. But anyone who has taken the time to try to do this will find the fact of plurality inside the mind undeniable. It's interesting, the choice of words when Gurdjieff says that man is legion, because I believe it's in the Bible or in some religious scripture where the devil, Satan describes itself as legion. In other words, he doesn't say, I am the devil, I am one dude who makes your life really difficult. He says, no, he says our name is legion. We are many. Right, and that's what we deal with. That's the journey, the thing to conquer, or the enemy is this swarm or this plurality of entities that keep popping up, and over which we have very little control unless we start to do some systematic work of mental cultivation. So I hope that is illustrative of the idea. As I said, this is a very illustrative book, so I will keep coming back to it, and I will do a little bit more quote mining because I found it to be very valuable. So I'll be back with more. Cheerio.